Hello everyone, this is Jalapeno and welcome to the next episode of the Eaveecraft Business Let's Play tutorial series. I wanted to show you some new crafting items, this time with the alloy smelter, how we're going to set that up automatically. If you'll recall in the last episode, I can do some basic recipes to tell it, I want to turn an ore into a cup of powder, take the powder and smelt it. Now we're going to do alloys, which are a bit trickier because they usually require two or three components, and I thought it was important for you guys to see how that's done effectively so that you don't wind up screwing up your system. The first thing we want to do is in the alloy furnace, we want to make sure the furnace mode is set to alloys only. That way it puts everything in the right order and it doesn't start smelting until the proper recipe is in there. Now you'll notice in my crafting, I want to make a few more of these solar panels for the MJ stuff, but I need energetic alloy, which is something that I can only obtain through the alloy smelter, and it requires one redstone, one glowstone, and one gold ingot. So now I'm going to show you how I would set this all up. I'm going to take all the gold ingots out. I'm going to take the redstone that I have, and we also needed. Wait for it, don't tell me. We also needed glowstone. That was it. Alright, so we'll just take that, and then we're going to go to our little pattern thing here. And just so you remember, we only need one of each. It will be very important if you're using a recipe that requires multiple items that you put it in this interface. So for the energetic, we are just simply going to say we want to put one gold in there, one redstone, and one glowstone. In theory, it shouldn't matter how you put it in here. It should not change how the system works at all. Now, right now, it's saying, well, if I do this, it's going to create gold ingots. That's only because I put the gold item in first. It actually doesn't know what is going to be made out of this. That's just a bug. But I have to tell it it's going to make an alloy. And I don't know if I actually... Oh, I'm lucky enough, I do actually have a couple in here. So I'll say if it puts these three items into the alloy smelter, we will get an energetic alloy. So I'm going to toss this in here. So now it's already updated and it's saying, oh, we need gold ingots. I've put, I've already put some items in here, but I don't have the gold ingot. Well, as you remember, I've taken it all out, but we're going to already go to the next stage and have it also create gold ingots automatically. So I've got 4 gold here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my pattern encoder here and say one gold ore. I actually don't think I have any gold powder. I do not, so I'm actually going to quickly manually process one of these. Alright, and we'll say, alright, there we go. And then we're going to go a step further and we're going to say 1 gold powder will equate to 1 gold ingot. So now we can take the powder set up, and it's not going to do anything yet until I mention the fact that gold powder can be used to make gold ingots. So now in theory it should pick up. Oh, it's missing gold ore. Yeah, that would make sense. So I'll dump this in here. And now it says, oh, it needs gold powder to make the gold ingot, which is being crafted as we speak. And you'll notice I actually got a new item there. I didn't see what powder that was. Um, but the sag mill will occasionally produce additional stuff. In this case, I got copper powder, so free copper for me. And now it's smelting the gold. And then once it has enough gold, it should drop it into here. Now, in theory, it should actually put it into the system properly. I'll have to play with things a bit. Oh, you know why it's not working? It is because it's not powered. So I'm going to grab a few more energy conduits. So make sure it's connected properly. Alright. And there we go. Now it's actually smelting. And that's all there is to it. And it'll start creating the energetic alloy whenever I require it. So then if I start... So with this recipe, it will consistently keep making gold powder, and it'll keep making gold ingots until it has all the energetic alloy it needs. We'll craft the one cell, move on to the next one, rinse, repeat. So now I can actually manually craft or automatically craft those cells anytime I want. So now I have the order of 8 in there. Now I can just run off and do resource farming, work on bees, do some exploring, and come back, and then eventually this stuff will be done. I don't have to sit here and babysit this stuff. That is why I really want to start automating things. But that is fine for now. Now we're actually going to get started on a little bit of bee stuff. The first thing we are going to need is a scoop. Bees are one of those things that once you get started on it, it will get you hooked very quickly. You can make almost any kind of raw resource, including most monster drops, from bees. But they get extremely complicated, and there's a lot of work that's attached to it. But I need to create a scoop, which I had just shown the recipe for. What am I doing? There we go. And I know I have wool somewhere. Let's check my old home. Aha, there we are. There's my wool. Alright, so we'll head back and 3 wool. I really gotta go out and start shearing some sheep. But this will be enough for what we need to do. Alright, so now we have a scoop. Now the scoop is what's necessary to actually collect wild bees. Bees basically spawn in various hives that you will find all throughout the world. If you have problems finding them in the mainland, you can spot them in Mistcraft worlds too. All right, that is technically a beehive, but that's actually from a different mod. I think that's from Biomes of Plenty, and that actually does not count as what it is that we're looking for. So I'm going to fly around a little bit. They're usually a bit more common, especially in a fairly newly generated world like ours, but they do not spawn in all of the Biomes of Plenty biomes. So because of that, some biomes it's just barren. I just have to find a biome that works for bees. Worst case scenario, I know I can find them in my Mistcraft world. They can actually spawn in the water too, so I'm just keeping an eye out just to happen to see if there's any in that area. I typically don't start with water bees simply because of the fact typically where you find a bee is the kind of climate you have to be in order to initially start working with the bees. So I don't really want to have a big lake in the middle of my house to work with the water bees. But really, at this point, any bee will work for as far as showing you exactly how to get started. Alright, I am having no luck. I mean, I could probably find them if I searched around long enough, but you don't need 30 minutes of video of me just flying around aimlessly. So, you get to check out my Eaveecraft world. Now, this is what I use just for basically mining. As you can see, I've dug a few giant holes here. In Eaveecraft World, you do not need to fill up your quarries on our server, simply because of the fact it's your own personal world. I really don't care how ugly you make it. So, I'll fly around. And some rain, how nice. So here is a beehive. You can tell that it's a beehive simply because of the fact it's got all the stripes, the little holes on either end of it. They come in different colors, and all the colors do mean different things. In this case, these are meadow bees, which is a really nice starting bee to work with. You'll notice that this says ignoble stock on it. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but basically if you've used there we go. If you've used forestry in the past and worked with bees, there used to be a little icon when you knew bees were temporary. They'd have like a little minus sign on their name that would basically say, eventually these bees are going to die. That's been changed to ignoble stock, and I can't even remember what the other one is, but it's something like unimportant. Well, it's not unimportant, but whatever name it is, it basically identifies it's a crappy bee. The bees are still usable, but it basically means eventually it's going to die off on you. And starting out, that's not a big deal, but once you get further along and you start getting high-end bees, like bees that can create diamonds or ender pearls, you really want to make sure you have bees that aren't just going to die off on you, otherwise it screws up your whole automation system of them. So what I'm going to do just to get started with these ones is I've already created this. I've created a bee house. This is the first tier, if you will, of beehives, more or less. Bee house is actually relatively easy to make. Doesn't require a lot of components. All it requires is some wood slabs, and a honeycomb. And as you can see, I got a honeycomb when I found these bees, so I would have been able to make this bee house not a problem as is. All you do is you slap the bee house down, you take your princess bee, and you put it in the top slot. Every time you want to get stuff operational, you need a princess and you need a drone. Typically what's going to wind up happening is when you put two of the same type in, like two meadows bees, you will get a meadows queen, which is what we're going to get here. Now, because it's turning night, and luckily enough it's just turning night, the bee isn't actually going to start operating until the following day. So we are not going to worry too much about that. Leave that there for now. And what I'm going to do next is collect some flowers. Bees basically require a number of things to work. Basically, they require flowers close by to them. Flowers can actually it's a little misleading. That is the name that's used to determine, to identify what it is they require. But they effectively require some type of food. These types of bees typically require, just basic run-of-the-mill flowers, anything you can happen to find anywhere. But there are also ones that you can find underground that will require you to use rock or stone or something along those lines. Or there can also be ones that require you to have netherrack if you found the bees in in the nether. There's bees that require endstone. There's even bees that require a dragon egg. So, getting those, might be nice to have bees like that. But if you don't have the one dragon egg that's on the server right now, it really doesn't. So really, I can just grab any flowers. Just to play it safe, I usually get the vanilla flowers. But truthfully, any flowers should work. And I know I grabbed a few, but you only actually need one within its vicinity for it to operate. Where are they? So I'll put that down. Then while we wait for that, we'll go and we'll look for some other bees. There's some more. This should be more Meadows bees. Now, one thing I will mention, I didn't actually mention this about my Mistcraft world before, is that you'll notice it's flat everywhere and it's all a single biome. That's the way I set this up. Basically, I created a single biome that's in plains. I didn't have modifiers to handle things like weather or have it always be sunny or stuff, but I mean, there's little dips and stuff here, but that's just from cave generation and things like that. But it's nice and open. There's plenty of animals if I need to farm food, sheep if I needed to shear. There are some trees available, but one of the really nice things is finding the structures for more pages. Shows up really easy on your mini map, and they're fairly easy to spot. There are some other ones. I think I've already cleaned this one out. I'm just gonna dump some. No, I haven't. I'm shocked how close it is. It didn't have anything. I think I've got all those pages, but it's just, this is a nice, simple world to work with. And of course, I have the added benefit of the fact no one can access this world unless I let them teleport to me at least once. So I can pretty much do anything I want here. Now, I don't recommend, you're perfectly fine to build here. Probably what I'll do when I really get expansive and have a huge bee population I need to work with, I will probably put them in an environment like this, just basically to save on space on the overworld. But you need to remember that Mistcraft worlds are a mod world, which does mean that as we update things, it can potentially corrupt and have to be reset. And if that happens, you will lose your Mistcraft world. When I do mod pack updates, I try to protect the overworld so that our main builds aren't affected, but dimensions are fair game. So just keep that in mind, that you don't want to build anything in these things. You don't want to risk losing. That is why I decided for my new base not to build it in a world like this, just because then I could be victim of my own policy if a mod pack with Mistcraft updates at some point where I have to reset all the Mistcraft worlds. So I did get a few more bees. This is going to be enough to start. Typically, you only really need one or two types of bees to start. But you will eventually want all the different basic types. There's like plain bees, jungle bees, the water bees I mentioned before, the bees underground that I mentioned before. Those are called rocky bees. You want to get a variety of them because each of them allow you to eventually progress to more complicated branches. So we are going to create 2 more bee houses. Again, auto-crafting is nice. And I'm not going to put them right next to each other. I'll put them one block apart. That flower might work for all 3, but I'll just drop this down here just to play it safe. And then we can put... you know what? I screwed that up. The ignoble stock is the crappy stock. That's the one where the bee will eventually die off. The ones where they won't die off are the pristine stock. That's why I was getting confused, because I'm an idiot. Alright, so the pristine bees are the ones you ultimately want. These ones are like gold. The one nice thing is in the old forestry days, if you had a temporary bee, one of those bees with the minuses on it, it could work like a virus and actually spread to your queen and princess bees. So, if this was a temporary bee, it could affect my princess to a point where my princess would die off. Because it doesn't happen anymore. Since this princess is pristine, it will always remain pristine no matter what happens. The ignoble ones are the same way. So these bees will eventually die. Now, I haven't seen any direct confirmation of it, but I believe in the bee houses, bees will never die. Um, or it's a very, very low chance for them to die. This is to give us all a chance to actually move on to the next tier of stuff before we start having to worry about such things. But I wouldn't. I would take that all with a grain of salt because I've seen no actual confirmation and I haven't tested the bee houses enough in this build to know 100%. But we're going to assume for now it will all work out. So now what we're actually going to do is we are going to create some piping so we can actually automate this entire process. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. Typically, what will wind up happening once the bees start. This is the bee queen's life meter. During this time, it will consistently produce honeycombs. It will also potentially produce byproducts if it's a specialty bee. And then when it's dead, when it dies off, it will produce at least one princess and any number of drones. The number of drones it produces depends on a quality trait that's within this bee. We can't see it yet, but it's in there. It'll be anywhere between 0 to 4 drones, I believe. So these ones, the standard Meadows bees, I think are 1 or 2. It'll be enough to basically keep going and consistently expand. So now it's finally becoming daylight again. But typically what I will wind up doing is I'll actually create a little automated process that will, when the bee dies, it will take all the items out, it will sort it, throw one princess and the drone back into the system, and everything else it'll dump into my ME network. And now, unfortunately, it looks like all these bees. I am in a hostile environment. That's just because I guess the woodlands, which is kind of weird, is considered, I'm guessing, too hot for them. Basically, bees like particular climates to work with. Remember, as I said, typically you have to start off working with a bee within the environment you found it in, and I'm guessing the woodlands here will not work for bees that like the plains. We can actually modify that in the future. We're just not at that stage yet. Let's see if I can do this in my if the cherry blossom areas will work for this. Yeah, see, the temperature here is only 70. It's in the normal range. So if we're lucky, there should be no reason why this bee can't work. So there we go. We need to put a flower down. And now you'll see there's these little graphics coming out of it. There's just like little bees. Might be a little hard to see, but if you look really closely, that's what they are. And very slowly, this will start dropping. So effectively, that's all there is to it to initially start with bees. You first want to find a good selection of different bees, a nice variety of them, and initially start off just producing some honeycombs and some just some basic things that these things produce. Get your automation set up, and then we're going to start looking at beam mutations to get into more advanced things, which is what we're going to discuss in the next episode. So that's it for now. Feel free to just subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments or questions, please add it to the YouTube chat, and take it easy.